So the last part of the selling process is actually the fun part. You get to pack up, move out, hand over your keys. So let's go over that process real quick here so that we can make it as smooth and easy as possible for you. So there are actually 3 phases to this process: prepping for move out, allowing the buyer to come back and do a quick rewalk, and then signing and closing with your paperwork. So phase 1 is the prepping for move out phase. If you can remember back, maybe you rented an apartment at some point in your life and you're getting ready to move out of that apartment and you really want to get your deposit back. That's kind of how I like to think about this phase. So the best thing to do, or the right thing to do, and it's also part of your contract, is to make sure the place looks really, really good when you move out. Make sure it's clean, make sure all the holes that you may have put in the walls from hanging things up and things like that are touched up. Just that whole I would like my deposit back feel at the end. The other thing I always remind my clients is, what did you agree to in the beginning? Because sometimes it's been a month or even a little bit longer and you might not remember, hey, we negotiated our refrigerator in this contract. So you want to make sure any appliances, or sometimes even an item of furniture or a set of curtains or something, might have been included in your contract. Just try to remind yourself, and if you have questions, if you can't remember, we can remind you. We can go back and get you a copy of your documents if you need them, if you can't find them. But just make sure you're not taking something that you've already agreed to leave behind. On the flip side of that, make sure you don't leave a bunch of stuff that isn't agreed to, because also in the contract it says that you'll be removing all of your personal items. So even things that you might think, hey, the buyer might like this, it's not necessarily a good idea to leave that stuff behind. Because I've had clients come back and say, why do we have to make a dump run when someone else left their stuff behind? So things that you might want to leave behind, you can ask us to request that you leave it behind, and we can try and work that out with them, but you just can't leave a bunch of stuff that you assume they might want. A common question we get all the time is, do I have to hire a professional to clean my house as I move out? I always think it's a great idea. If that's something you can do, it'll take a lot of stress off of you. You hire a move out clean. They go into such detail, make the house look perfect at the end. But that's up to you whether you want to take that job on and be moved out in enough time to give yourself time to clean, or if you want to just hire somebody to come in that last day and make it happen for you. Phase 2 is the rewalk for the buyer. So at this point, we also call it a reinspection sometimes. At this point, the buyer gets to come back and see the home again with their own eyes. They may not have been able to see it throughout the process this whole time, maybe in the first couple days during the inspection, but this allows them to see that that work that was negotiated, if there was any, got done with their own eyes, that it's done, and then also just a chance to see the house again prior to closing. So that is part of their contract. Typically it happens somewhere between 3 and 5 days prior to closing. So a lot of times my clients get a little mixed up with this and they're in the moving process. You try your best to be ready for that part, but if you're still moving some boxes around and things are messy, everybody understands that this is life. This is how moving is. We just all work together and make it happen. Phase 3 is your last phase. It includes your document signing and then your documents actually closing through the county. So that's a little bit of a process that takes a couple of days. So we'll go through that really quick. Typically somewhere around 2, 3, maybe even up to a week ahead of time, the seller's documents will be ready to go ahead and sign. So it doesn't necessarily correlate with the buyer's loan because the seller side doesn't have a loan attached to it. So you may be able to do that a little bit ahead of time. So the closing day, you might not actually have to do anything, but just go ahead and be done. So that gets a little bit confusing to people. They think signing and closing is on the same day, but it's usually actually a few days apart. So escrow will call you, they'll set up a time. You can either have a notary maybe meet you somewhere at your house, wherever's convenient. You can go to their office. Lately, a lot of people have been doing notarized signing at their home. I've seen that more and more and more lately. The things you need to know is that it usually takes about 30-40 minutes to do all of that paperwork, and that they'll definitely need your identification. The next thing about phase 3 is to remember that your utilities are all probably still connected to your home. So you've got your water, your sewer, your garbage, all that stuff still in your name. So I always remind my clients that that's something that you want to make those calls towards the end. There's a lot going on. You may be prepping and moving and all of that stuff. So just keep that in mind, that you're going to want to make those phone calls before you're on the road, out the door, so that you're not stressed at the end with someone else to take care of after you've moved out. Lastly, it's really, really important that you leave any items in your house that the buyer is going to need once they move in. I've seen this a few times, and it kind of creates a hilarious little problem where people go to move in and there's no keys. So just remember, leave your keys to any doors, your garage door openers. If you have a shed in the back that has a different type of lock on it, there could be like a little key that goes to your fireplace sometimes. I've seen that where somebody can't turn their fireplace on. And also like an irrigation system could be something that you might have. So just run through your mind, what would you need to know about your property? It's really nice if you can label keys or just make a little note as you're leaving. Mailbox keys are one of the biggest culprits. People forget to leave their mailbox keys sometimes. So if you've got all that in a drawer somewhere where they can easily find it, it's very, very helpful. We can get you a checklist if you're one of those people that really likes to keep things organized, and a checklist would be helpful. Just reach out and we can get you a checklist for closing. But if you follow those 3 phases, use your checklist to stay organized, your closing should be very smooth.